Well, hello. I was hoping to get started on time tonight, but apparently I'm starting 20 minutes late. So that's just the way it is. Let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to try to be emulating oils. I'm going to be continuing to work on the illustration that we've started the last few times. And so far I think it's turning out good. I was really happy with the progress we made last night. So what we're trying to do, if this is your first time watching, is we're trying to use Photoshop to create the look of oils without the digital media emulation engine that's in, say, Fresco, for example. So there's over 2,000 brushes that are available for free in Photoshop, many of which were made by Kyle Webster. They're amazing brushes, and Kyle Webster has lots of great tutorials, and you could go watch those. There's lots of videos out there about all the different brushes. But really the dilemma is that anytime anybody goes over those, including Kyle, he's doing a really big picture overview of the functionality, and he just kind of hits them quickly, maybe categorically, kind of how they work in general. And so what this is about is actually producing an illustration from beginning to end, emulating the look, and just taking the time it takes to explore the brushes. And hopefully we can go through some trial and error, and you can learn from my mistakes, learn from watching, and we can figure it out and make a completed illustration. And I've got several different illustrations that I'm working on, some quick, short oil sketch type illustrations that I'm doing for Inktober, and as well as this big kind of long-term poster size illustration I'm working on for like a month. And we're getting close to being done at this point. You can catch all of those archived videos since I started doing this, which is fairly recently, on YouTube, and they're going to be categorized by their subject matter that I'm painting at the time. So let's go ahead and get started. And last night I wasn't doing a very good job following the chat, so hopefully I'll try to keep up with that a little better tonight. You need to get in the zone of painting, and I try to keep track of, I got 5 monitors here. It's hard to keep track of everything that's going on, but I don't want to ignore you. So if you're watching me, awesome, thanks, and I do appreciate that. So and don't forget to check out the stuff on YouTube, because that is the archive of where I'm going to keep stuff. And when you put comments in there, that's a way for you to comment after the fact. If you're watching during recording, I do see those. I do try to respond. And if you click like and thumbs up and follow and subscribe and all that good stuff, it helps me know what kind of content you like and what you want to see me continue to produce in the future. So let's go ahead and take a look at where we're at so far for tonight. I'll try not to get too tangled up in cords and wires here. So if we back up and just look at what we've made so far, I'm going to check all of our inputs here. All right. That looks like it's working. I can see the chat, so that looks good. Try to respond if I see anybody join. Feel free to say hello and let me know where you're at and what your name is. It'd be good to see everybody. Let's go ahead and get an overview of what we're working on here. We're going to go sometimes this remote works, sometimes it doesn't, which apparently it isn't. So let's use finger commands. One of the advantages of sitting here for hours watching me paint is I do try to talk through everything that I'm doing, so you will know what finger commands I'm using. And I find that with a lot of tutorials or painting things like this, live streams, people just kind of like do stuff and you don't really know what's happening. So I come from a teaching background. I used to teach Photoshop for years, and so I used to make my students memorize 250 finger commands. They're really great, they're easy to use, so I'll try to talk through those as we go. So just going to zoom in here, and let's see if this is working now. It is. Excellent. So this is where we kind of left off, trying to emulate oil. So we'll turn everything off so you can see what's happening or what's going on. And then we'll turn everything back on again. So this was the original pencil sketch. Command minus to zoom out if you don't have the fancy Wacom remote. So turn off this gesso layer. So this was a pencil sketch that was approved by the client, and this is what we're going to try to make. So there was some sky in the original pencil drawing. I kind of hinted at where the sun and stuff was going to be, but I kind of got rid of that when it got translated into here. There was a few little minor edits when I moved it over. And this pencil sketch I actually did in fresco just on an iPad. Had a white layer brought in, and also I added some gesso at some point. I did that pretty recently, but I do like the quality of that, and I think I will start to gesso stuff in the future. In this case, I was trying to gesso out with the paint of the gesso, in the brush strokes, kind of the perspective that I was looking for in the ground. And so not only did it provide a nice tone as an underpainting, just to begin with, instead of painting a stark white, it also helped me kind of figure out the ground when I started painting the ground plane. So I actually started by painting sky. And this is where I started my oil exploration. And so in a sense, this is the weakest part of this digital emulation process. I really wanted the sky to be the best part in a way. However, it's okay. It turned out all right. I think I'm learning as I go. A part of these brushes, there's so many brushes, literally, hundreds and hundreds of brushes, and there's not the emulation engine there to mimic what happens with pressure and sensitivity and the globulousness of paint and the viscosity of paint. That's all possible in Photoshop, but you have to use like a different brush every single time for every single stroke, every different sort of textural effect. And a lot of that just comes from pencil mileage. The more you use your stylus and the more you play with these brushes, the more familiar you're going to be with how they work. And I think what a lot of people do is they gravitate towards one or two brushes that really kind of work for them, and then they figure that's good enough and kind of never experiment. And so part of this has been just experimenting with different brushes and bumbling around in the dark. So maybe these are hours and hours of videos are super boring, but watch it on double speed if you're watching the recording. But I think we're figuring out stuff and making it look better as we go. So on this one, by the way, if I hold down spacebar and drag, then it allows me to move my screen. So we got this, and then after that, I laid in some medium ground, you might say. This is really the furthest back of my grass, so it's part of my background really. And I might come back in and edit this. I started to put in a little bit of highlights in here where the sun is like glinting. I need to do that more if we're going to do it. I was just kind of experimenting in that one spot, but we need to bring that out to fruition and pull it through the whole painting if we're going to do that. Some of this grass is really huge back here, and I think that might need to be toned down and be more subtle, more distant. Like it's a big savanna plain that goes way out in the distance. If it was a big savanna plain that went out in the distance, the grass would be so tiny that it would be, invisible. And here I've got huge stalks and things showing. So we have to think about that. That is definitely editable, and we can fix it, but I have to think about what we want to do. That's kind of the reason I went with this big stalky approach, is because in the original pencil drawing, I had that, and I really liked that quality of it, but I don't know that it's going to translate ultimately into the finished painting, so we'll have to see. It's nice when you do a thumbnail to develop that into a layout, get that layout approved by a client, and then deliver exactly what it was that they saw and approved. So if you order a Big Mac with fries and you have your receipt that you ordered a Big Mac with fries, when you go to pick it up, you expect a Big Mac with fries. You don't want to say, like, well, I thought you might like bacon, so I added that. No, you don't want the chef to give you any surprises. You want to get what you ordered. And so in my layout here, I had big stalks of grass. That's what I painted. But we'll see. This client's extremely flexible. So ultimately, I'm going to let the painting dictate what looks best as I move through the painting process. Thankfully, I have the flexibility to do that on this project. Okay, so that got us up through the sky and the ground. And then next, we added trees and foliage. Now, this trees and foliage business was really meant as a background element, right? I don't want it to be too dominant. I don't want it to be too eye-catching. I really want it to be thematic, dark, and oppressive, and gritty and raw, and almost like evil kind of feeling. So that's why there's all this red, and that's why the time of the day with the sunset allows me to get away with adding all this red and just dark, textural, raw, gritty, really gritty stuff going on. So I like how that turned out. There's not a lot of distinct actual foliage there, but that's okay because it's a background element. Next we added Cain in, and man, this has been a real experiment, and I really don't like how it looks, and I'm really hesitant to just throw it all out and start over again. But that's the beauty of digital painting. I can throw it all out and start it over again if we need to. But we'll see. We'll keep layering this in. We'll keep building it. I mean, with real oils, you would layer, you know, washes. Well, I guess it depends on your painting style. If you're doing a real impasto style, you would just everything on there at once. But the old paintings, you know, they would layer layer after layer after layer on there. So we can continue to mess with this. I'm not worried. I haven't finished it, obviously. I got to do his left eye and figure out lighting on his face and nose and stuff. And also I tend to work just in lights and darks of one tone, so that's why there's no color grading from the warmth and sunniness and the sunset. None of that oranginess is in there. So I'm going to try to keep my eye on the chat. If you are here, say hello and let me know you're watching. And if you've watched before, I seem to get a little bit of viewership. You know, it's minimal. I'm mostly talking to myself every night. But, you know, if you've watched before, let me know that you're a repeat viewer, and I'd be happy to welcome you each night. Or maybe it's your first time. So let's see, what else did we do? So last night we made some serious progress for the first time, I felt like, in a while. And we added some ground. And normally, like I said, I'd work in tones and washes, and then add color grading. And so I went ahead and added the color grading right now because I really wanted to tie this together and kind of see what was going on with the painting. And I really love this. I really love this blotchy look like you would get by adding what I think is vinegar to oil. Anyway, I like that. I like this blotchy look, almost like a Gustav Klimt look. Clint, something, however you pronounce his name. So, and then we also added I'm not sure that layer has anything on it. I don't like random layers. Let's see if it has nothing on it. Nope, no pixels. Let's delete that. I don't want to have layers that aren't named and I don't know what they are floating around. So we started to add in the figure down here at the bottom. And this turned out really well. Now we've got to add additional shading and like cast shadows for the additional shading. But the actual form shading I think is done. And as we get in the rest of the body, I'll kind of see where the shapes are and see if we can add in those cast shadows of the sun kind of glinting down across the form here. So we're going to leave the pencil drawing on so we can see what we got. And I really love how this pencil drawing is here. I'm just so tempted to say, oh, this is done. This is what it's going to look like. But we'll try painting it out more and better before I just do that. But this is the look I really want. I mean, and in a sense, this is such a primary part of the piece that having dived into it early in our oil exploration might have been premature. And so having now this rest of this illustration behind us and under our belt, I think we can move forward with exploring some of this vibe. And I guess what I'm saying is I want to come back to this and kind of do it near the end. So this one's unlabeled. Let's label that next to the able close. Yep. Cool. So let's see if we can paint him in. He's got kind of an outfit here. I don't really have a plan. I kind of felt like it was a woven material of some kind. One thing that I've found is that the pencil drawing just has so much personality, and it's easy to kind of lose that. Once you start tying it down, you lose the spontaneity, and there's no reason to do that, but we just have to be true to it if we want to keep it. So even in this form here, I feel like I want to keep some of that graphic flatness that was in the pencil drawing that's being lost. So let's switch over here. See if we can bring some of that back. Turn this wheel down low, just enough that we can kind of see a hair. And then we'll go in here into this layer. I don't want to obsess over stuff and be like crazy, but and then let's get a brush. That's what this is all about, oil brushes. So I think I was using, well, it doesn't matter really, we could kind of experiment. I think I was using this brush in particular for this garment, so I'd want to continue with that brush again for this garment. So just get small here. Oh, one thing that's nice is you can paint, you can instantly convert any brush into an eraser. No, it actually doesn't work for all brushes, actually, even though I just said it did. It doesn't work for blender brushes. So I can just erase. Alright, I think that's good. I'll turn this back on and then see what we need to kind of blend in. Almost nothing, actually. A little bit right here. So let's get a blender brush. Maybe just this one. And then get help if I'm on the right layer. So Command Z, change the layer. This is good. I really didn't need to do much. Because I had the underpainting that was grouped to the above painting, all that shading was still there. Pretty slick, actually, if I do say so myself. Okay. Now, when you're working on a giant piece and you've got giant brushes and giant everything, giant real estate, it's good to step away from your painting. And if it was a real painting, I would step back and step away from my easel. And in a virtual painting, you want to make it small. However, you don't want to work small, because if you work small, then you're going to be making the wrong decisions proportionally to your painting. So this painting is 18 by 24. I need to be making 18 by 24 painting decisions. The paint needs to be proportional to the scale of the image. So I'll zoom this back in. This is about real scale right here. So this is about the size that I should be painting. So I know that because I can take a ruler, and this scale is pretty much dead on. So I'm at 100% in my Photoshop document, and this monitor being awesome, the Wacom monitor, at 100% it's true to size. So this gives me an idea of what this texture looks like. So if I was going to hang this up in the hallway and look at it, this is what I would see. So is this what I want to see? Is this too much detail? Is this too little detail? Does it look proportionately appropriate? You know, you don't want to have giant brush strokes and giant thick lines on something that people can walk right up to and look at. If you're going to have giant thick lines, that should be something that's going to be shrunk down. And maybe it's going to be the size of a postage stamp. So you got to think about the context of your production, your export, your final piece. I'm going to blend. I guess I got my highlights right on this layer. So let's see. I guess still have this blender brush. Nope, I don't. So up here is my blender brush. So we'll grab that, and I want to blend. What's nice about these blender brushes is that they blend with the texture. Of the canvas like we're using. so it keeps the painterly quality. Let's go up a level to where I have some shadows right there. Let's go to this one. Again, are the textures appropriate at the scale you're working on? So I would say that these need to just be toned down a hair. But still have a brush quality to them. Still look painterly. Now, see, these are all grouped over here to this layer. So that means anything I do to this layer will clean up all the layers. So if I want to clean up this, I can do that right here. And then the other one that's doing that is this one, this blue one right here. So I can come to this blue layer, and that's going to clean up not only this layer, but also the layers that are above it, grouped to it. So I think I'm good with that for now. Like I said, we're going to come in and add some darker shadows to this when we look at what the cast shadows are going to be, and then we can really punch all the darkness. But for the basic tonality and even the color grading that we did yesterday, this is good. So let's move on to the torso and shirt. So I normally have all my work like super planned out, and I know exactly what I'm doing in advance and have some kind of vision. I'm a really big firm believer in plan your work your plan. So I'm sure that quote goes to somewhere, but that was something my grandfather used to always say. So, you know, but I've really been torn. Is this like a leather shirt, almost like a fringed garment, or is this a like a burlap bag, like a rustic weave, or is this, you know, a more refined fabric? So I just think we're going to start with a neutral. I'd like to go with something a little more tan and earthy than the kind of the white garment that he's wearing on his base, on his waist. So we'll see what it looks like, and we can always modify it, right? We can do whatever we want. So we'll start by painting in just the basic form of that garment. So if you're just joining me, thanks, welcome. Make sure you say hello and put your name and location in chat. So it's good to have you. And let's see here. We've got the basic form here. Go ahead and close up this, I guess it'd be a tunic. Is that the right word? whatever he's wearing on his waist. Loincloth. And now we're going to go ahead and create a new layer here for the shirt. And we'll go ahead and turn back down this opacity. Just enough to just have a hint of the structure there so we know what we're painting in. And then I like to keep this pencil layer locked because I find that for whatever reason, I constantly end up painting on that layer by mistake. So let's grab a brush. I switched to my brush tool with the letter B as a finger command, and let's try a different brush for this. I think maybe something a little more texture. We could try this. See, look, I'm on that pencil layer. Not where I want to be. So it's hard to tell what that looks like, but let's give it a try. And we can actually, you know what? Let's use an actual oil brush. Okay, these are in the Kyle's paint box, and there's lots of interesting brushes here, including some that claim to be oils, like these down here. But these aren't actual blender brushes, and for the actual blender brushes, we need to come down here to the real oils. And the real oils, see, they have a different, see, this is a regular paintbrush icon, which is this first brush up here at the top. But the real oils, where do they start? Right here. Okay, this is a different icon. That's the blender brushes, or sorry, mixer brushes. Well, they are a blender brush, but okay. So let's try this one. See what that gives us. Yeah, that gives us some paint texture back there. I mean, some canvas texture, which is almost like the canvas kind of coming through that I was talking about, like a burlap bag. Could also be like a leathery texture, I suppose. Let's make an area to work first. I know I'm bouncing all around, but that's part of oil painting, is figuring out what you want to do. So let's just do a hard round brush, really basic, really simple. And I don't even care what the color is. We could just do it in brown. And let's paint in where the border of this shirt is going to be. So right now I'm going to lock it to Able. So that's Command Option G. So it groups it down. So that means I can paint anywhere. It doesn't matter where I'm painting. And I'm not going to spill out and paint on something I don't want to paint on. So that's super convenient. And then he has a pretty high collar. I was thinking about giving him like a Henley collar, or Henley collar, or like a V-neck collar. And I experimented with that in my pencil drawings, and I don't know, I was just never really happy with the results. So I ended up just giving him like a standard like crew neck, I guess that's called. So that's what it is for now. This whole outfit, you know, I wasn't really sure how it was going to drape. You know, I don't want it to look like it's a tin can wrapped around his arm. I really want it to look like it's draped on his arm. But so his arm has a big bicep here, and would come in like that, and then it's going to drop off after the bicep. It's not going to like follow the curve of the muscle at this point because it's just going to be draping down, and I think it's going to remain open. like that. Oh yeah, I think that's way more realistic looking. Yeah, maybe it goes off where you can't see it. I like that. So I'm deviating a little here, which means I'm going to have to ungroup. So same finger command, command option, shift G. I can paint that in. Now, as you can see, that totally ruins my silhouette value. That's all right. What I can do is I can hold down the command button, click on this layer. It's going to select everything. And then Command Shift I will invert that. Command X cuts it, cleans it up for me. And then I can come in with my brush tool and just fix that one little area. Which is just going to look like that, I think. I think I'm happy with that. So last night when I was trying to do this, I was not watching the chat. I was just totally focused on painting. And also I had my chat window like over here where I couldn't see it at all. So now I've got my chat window up here. This is actually a totally different computer, not even connected, but I have it running and can hopefully see. If you're saying something, let's see if anybody's saying anything. I can compare my two chat windows. But yeah, nope, nothing. So guess you're not missing any hot chats there. All right. So now we've got that done. I see we missed a little spot right here. Good. This is a fairly tight-fitting garment, so I think we're safe to kind of do whatever we want in terms of the fabric material. It seems like it's a fairly refined material. I mean, I guess you tell me, what kind of material do you think it is? I kind of like this color, I think. Let's zoom out and see what it looks like. I don't know. Well, now is where we can use these mixer brushes, which is what I was talking about earlier that I was going to do and didn't do. But that would be down here in the real oils. Try this goody one. I've never actually used this. Supposedly this is Kyle's favorite brush. And let's pick a more muted color. That's kind of in our color palette. Maybe something like that. As a foreground color. And then let's pick one of these. Well, what I should probably do is just pick a lighter version of this. I don't really ever want to use pure white. Sorry, it's easy for me to lean on my arm, but then you can't see anything. I never want to use pure white, and I never really want to use pure black. So, and I've got one of these set as a foreground, one of these as a background color. Let's check and see what our color dynamics are set for. Nothing. Okay, good. So I like using the color dynamics, but in this case we'll just start without that. And I'm going to lock the transparency so I don't fall out of my image, and I'm just going to paint right on this image. I'm going to come in, make sure we're kind of staying at the 100% mark. No, I could probably get a bigger brush, but I think that might make my texture a little weird. I guess it looks okay. It slows down the painting process. You can see I got a lag. That's because the brush is so big, and I'm on such a high resolution file, and it's just going to be something we're going to have to deal with. Take a little bit to get caught up. I could work with a lower resolution file, or I could work with a smaller brush. Either of those would make it work better. This is all going to be in deep shadow, so right now I'm just kind of laying in some color. I could almost just fill this with color. I kind of like laying it in though, because it gives like an undertone of brush strokes. I'm not sure I like this brush though, but that's part of what's interesting about playing with it. Should we try Illustration King? Oh yeah, much softer. One that I thought might be interesting is there's a Gesso brush that has almost a impasto feel. That might be in the regular ones though. I don't know if that's in this oil set. It isn't, but that's what I like. I'm just playing with them, seeing what we got. See, I could totally just hit Command Delete right now and just totally fill this in with color. I'm gonna make my brush bigger. Let's close bracket to do that. I kind of like though exploring how the textures of the fabric are, kind of getting my mind wrapped around how these textures are going to wrap on the body and the understructure. And I've almost lost my pencil drawing in all this darkness, but as I bring it back into light, and remember, as you're painting, you should be painting in a way that mimics how you would really be painting. You know, don't scrub like, you know, don't just go like this, right? Like you're filling it in with a marker, because that's not how you would really paint. You know, when you really paint, you would do a brush stroke or two, and then you'd run out of paint, and you'd be going to your palette, getting some more brush, more paint. And so we've laid in, see, a very painterly kind of feel. I'm gonna erase. See how that looks good. Let's unlock this transparency. And I'm gonna actually erase this out a little bit so that I can come back in and paint out to it and get a little bit of painterly quality in there. So make my brush a little smaller. Yeah. I don't want everything to be rough and weird, but I think on this painting it's alright for it to be that way, just a hair. A hair of texture, a hair of paint. You know, too much, I feel like looks like a 1970s painting done by somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, and you found it in a thrift store for $2, right? So we want to strike that balance and have just enough texture to give it the feeling of oil without it either traversing into being just a flat digital thing or becoming something that is like amateur looking, right? Part of the problem with digital painting when people are doing it is that I think they just don't know what they're doing and don't know how to draw and just make stuff that looks kind of crappy just because they don't know how to draw. So I mean, there's that, I guess, but I realized I accidentally semi-erased my line here, so I'm just going to put this back in with a really small brush. And again, I'm just, you know, the Wacom or Wacom or however you pronounce it, it has a Wacom, no, Wacom, that's how you say it. I always get corrected. So Wacom. Anyway, one nice thing about the Wacom is it has all these, you know, remote controls and finger commands and stuff. But if you don't have that, just use the keyboard shortcuts that are in Photoshop. They work great and accomplish a lot of the same stuff. Alright, turn this back on. Good. I need some dark in there, that's bothering me. It keeps bothering me every time I look at it, but I'm doing other stuff and I don't want to think about it too much. There it is, it's on that layer right there. There we go. I have this, where's my camera? I have this button here set up to be the eyedropper button, and there's two buttons on here, a top one and a bottom one. So the top one is set to be undo, and the bottom one is set to be eyedropper. So that makes it really fast to select as you go. Now, one thing to keep in mind as you're painting, I have gotten caught where I had my painting tucked down and was painting away, painted right up to the edge, had everything painted perfect, have everything skated perfect, and then I went and moved it up and realized I had not done the bottom half of my section, bottom part of the painting, and then it's like impossible to make that match and blend it in anymore. So don't make that mistake. Always make sure you're moving around, you're zooming out, you're getting the big picture, you're zooming in. See, look at that brush, those brush strokes. It looks great. I know it seemed ridiculous when I could have just hit the fill button, but that looks so much better than hitting the fill button. So now we want to kind of feel out that shape. We want to get some highlights and some darks. So we can come back here to see our form a little bit and lock that. Close up this tunic. Here's our layer that we're working on. So I'm going to go ahead and label this as shirt base. And then we can add some shadows and some highlights. This wasn't really fleshed out too well as you can see by the pencil, it has some basic shadows, but nothing too sophisticated in terms of the folds and things like that. And maybe that's fine. Let's see where we go. So I'm going to make a new layer. Now, you can do all this on one layer, and actually, when I'm painting, I do tend to like to keep everything on one layer, and it really makes it blend well. So if I turn this off, I'll just show you. Actually, well, why don't I just make a duplicate? That would be Command J. And now I can paint on this, and we'll see where we end up. And if I don't like it, I can pull it out and put it on a different layer. So I have these two colors over here already selected, and let's see if I can change my chat window here a little bit. Yep. All right. So if you're just joining us, be sure you say hello down in the chat. Let me know what you're working on. We're going to add a shadow layer to this. So I think that this is going to be kind of poofed out here. So I'm feeling kind of all of this down here will be in shadow. Not really liking this brush too much. So let's just get rid of that and pick a different brush. They all kind of work different, you know? They all have different qualities. So you just have to kind of feel for the one that is the one you like best. Part of it is I just might not like that lighting. We might need to start with the most basic lighting before I get into like weird stuff. So that's I'll probably just leave it like this. That's fine. Let's try to make this work, right? This is about experimenting with different things. So let's see if we can make it work. I'm gonna turn this back on. A little fold here. And then all of this see, I think this brush might have a little too much flow. Let's turn that down. So that was our default flow, but I think that default flow was a little too intense. Now, it's going to have a chest action here. So that's going to be kind of the end of that, and there's going to be probably a shadow that runs with this chest. This is going to be stretched tight, so there's not going to be a whole lot of shadow here from his chest, but there will be shadow that comes down. Off of all that high spot of his shoulder. So I don't know. This looks like a big muddy mess. Let's turn this off and see what we got. I think we need something more intense. So I'm trying to be the big, I'm trying to soldier through and you experiment with the new brushes and experiment with different brushes. But I have to say I don't really feel like I like how that brush is blending in for us. Let's go back up here to these brushes, and there's a section of brushes up here. I'm going to find them that are like oils, but they're not the mixer brushes. Now you've noticed some of these I have tagged with my initials, and that makes it a lot easier to find brushes that you've used in the past. So a little tip, because you can use the search window up here, and I don't like to rename them because I want to know what they were originally, in case somebody's talking about them in a tutorial or something. But I do want to be able to find them again, and the only way to do that when you've used one and find one that you like is to name it something that allows you to find it and without actually renaming it. So I just, oh, see, I like this brush a lot better already, and it has a little bit of canvas texture in it, so that's perfect. So what I can do now, erase that. What I can do now is I can also, because this isn't a mixer brush, I can turn on color dynamics. So I want to apply it per tip, foreground, background, a little bit. Let's put a new layer on and experiment what this is going to look like. A little bit of hue saturation, some brightness. A little bit of hue. Let's see. It might be a little bit too much brightness. And I'm going to turn my flow up. Let's see. Let's do brightness. Let's turn hue down. Brightness down. It's still not. Oh, I have it turned off. Let's turn it on pen pressure. There, now it's working how I want. Alright, I don't know if you can tell what's happening, but this is really slick. So let's select all, Command A, Command X to get rid of it. What's happening is, I'll make this brush really big so you can see. Okay, so look at that. Can you see that? I can paint this really nice painterly quality just based on pen pressure and go from dark to light. Let me see. Spacing is at 3. Let's go back to this. Still a little more jitter in there than I want. I'm not sure where that's coming from. There, that's better. Oh, yep, that's what I want right there. I'll give it just 1%. No, I don't even like 1%. 0. Let's try hue jitter. No. See, I want the paint to be smooth in this case. So this is going to allow me to build up a texture from between my foreground and my background color. All right, Command A, Command X, boom. All right, so let's try this now. I can make the size down smaller. And so I'm going to hit X to toggle which my foreground background color is. I'm going to pick up this color as my foreground, and then I've got maybe this, hit X again to toggle, and then hit this one as my background color. That might even be too dark. Let's see. I might just take it out of this. So when I go make it like an L, okay, for my shadows. So I'm going to pull straight down, so I'm in the same kind of hue range, and then go left, and that's going to make it darker. And anytime I go left, it's going to get cooler by default, even though I'm in the same hue. Anytime I go to the right, it's going to get warmer, even though I'm in the same hue. Even without changing on my color wheel, it's going to give the perception of warmth or coolness. So there's my shadow color. So now let's just experiment with that real quick. Yeah. So since we're adding shadows, I'm going to actually toggle so that my top color is shadow. There we go. Nice. So this is all with pen pressure. So as I go lightly, I get something darker. And then as I paint more heavily, I get something lighter. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm going to go ahead and blend this down, or lock this down, and Option G, and might switch this into a multiply mode. Let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to hit V for the move tool, and then Option Shift M. So that makes it really dark. So because oh, now I hit B to go back to my brush. Yeah, that might be too dark. Not feeling that. Command A, Command X, V for the move tool, Command Option Shift N switches that layer back to normal. Go back to the brush tool, and then I can just paint like normal. X to catch my colors. I'm going to pick a really dark color, switch back. X again. There we go. Look at that. Nice. Nice. I got a lot of big texture there. I might turn that down. Let's see what I have in my texture. Here it is, texture. So the scale's at 100%. I'm going to turn it down so that this canvasy texture, so you can actually see the basket weave of the canvas in there. I don't really want that for this illustration. I want it to have more of a finished, polished, smooth, gessoed and sanded kind of look. I want there to be brush strokes. I want that to show through, but I don't want a whole lot of coarse canvasy quality. So we'll turn that down a little and see if it gives us the look we want. See, that's already smoother. And I can switch back and forth, kind of blend this. I think that might still be a little too big. I might also want to switch back to So I'm controlling this just with pen pressure. I'm going to switch back to my blender brush, but let's do that. Let's go up here to one of these blenders. I kept saying word blender earlier, and what I meant was mixer, but this actually is a blender. So this is a big giant thrash blender. So we got a few viewers. Where's everybody from? Or what are the kind of projects you're working on? I think I want to blend this in, right? Kind of like this warmish brown that I had going on here earlier, but let's see what we can do. Let's grab this acrylic glaze brush just randomly. Just because it's close by and easy to steal. Oh, here's this gesso brush I was talking about earlier. That one's huge. Gesso thin though. Might work. Might work for what we're doing. Yep, kind of like it. Just got to blend it in. Now I can use my brush history here to come back up here and get this brush. Lots of stuff happening here, some of which is cool and some of which I'm not sure about yet. Let's go really dark right in here. I think we're going to need to add some highlights. So let's add a highlight layer and pick up a lighter color. Even lighter. Yep. A little bigger. A little smaller, tuck a little highlight in here. Yep. Yep. Command Option G, lock that down, zoom out a little. Let's bring in his body. I think that's working. What do you guys think? Maybe the highlight is going to be on top and or to the left, so I think we can add some more highlight. A little bigger. There might be a little bit of shadow on this side. Yep, and Thrasher. I think this is all that needs to be a little darker. Where's my finger commands? Oh, right here. So I want a little shadow there as it rounds the corner, but it's got to immediately come into highlight. And see, this brush is just a little too wifty for that subtle highlight shadow right there. So let's come in with something a little smaller. Add that there, and then same with these shadows. Let's do this. Cut. Oops. Invert. Cut. And let's turn off that grouping. Paint on this level again. We just turn on. I guess I won't do that. Okay. I think that's good. So now as that light comes around, it's going to almost immediately, oh, it's not painting very intensely. Oh, that's because this is acrylic brush. I want to use, let me try creamy. Try creamy. So it's going to hit that shadow area and then almost immediately get a high highlight. Except for some cast shadow. So let's bring in that. Remember, we still have these shape dynamics turned on. My flow is pretty low too. So let's see what we can do to get the brush to behave how we want it to behave. You still have tip dynamics turned on. Oh, nope, it's turned off. Oops. It's not actually what I meant to do. See that? That's too much crease. I'm not feeling that. This would all be tight through here. And it'd all have sunlight on it. So let's fix that. Get a bigger brush. There we go. And I'm gonna do even more highlight. Let's turn this off for a minute and just paint with this light color. There we go. I mean, his arm is bent backwards. I actually have a reference photo that I took of myself laying on the ground. We need to take a look at that because this lighting isn't looking real realistic here to me. I see some people commenting here in Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, let me know if you watched tonight. So we got about an hour to go. All right. I was hoping to have this shirt completely done, but I'm just not feeling it. Oh yeah, I was gonna look up that source image. So source images are good, you know. Let's see what we got here for lighting. Maybe I can import one in so you can see it and I can see it too. I can airdrop it over so you can see it. Maybe it's somewhere. Oh, these don't show much for lighting. I mean, I guess it's better than nothing. Let's I'll airdrop this and you can see what I'm seeing. Accept. Save to downloads. Now the tricky part will be, can I actually find that file? I have no idea. Oh, yeah. There it is. That gives us a little idea of lighting. This might be a good reference photo to have on hand as we do the rest of his body, so I'll just cut this out and keep it handy. Then we have something to look at. So V for the move tool. Oh, there's some more of that image. Okay, well, let's get rid of that too. V for the move tool. So there is some shadow going on. He's a little more bent up and messed up than I am laying there, but it's pretty similar. We've got a highlight along here, which is good. That highlight's going to carry across to here. Just remember that the body here is kind of like a box. And we've got some kind of different cube shapes that we've got to light. So I would say, yeah, these are our shapes. So this is kind of bent up. That's what's under there though. So if we know what the structure is, then we can light it. So see, by this, I would say our highlight ridge is going to be right here. And see, that's not what I was doing. On this one, the highlight ridge is like maybe right there, across the barrel of my chest, because that's the highest point. But on this one, so this is the reference image. On this one, the highest point is going to be this bent up shoulder. So that the sunlight is going to be coming down, shining these rays down. And so this is where we need to make our highlight. So now I feel more informed to make the lighting be more accurate. I mean, it's all fake and made up lighting. We can really do whatever we want, but I do want it to look believable. And the lighting we have on here right now isn't believable. It just looks like a hot mess. So we're going to put the highlight in right here now. I might leave this on here for a minute so I can see. Yeah, okay. So on this layer, we can eyedropper this color, and we can bring in our highlight. If you're just joining us, hello. Let me know where you're watching from. We can bring back in this little box thing. We're just going to bring a highlight right in through here. That's our highlight. Everything else is going to be less of a highlight than that. So now we can fade down. Oh, see, I feel like that looks better already. Come on. What brush are we using? I don't even know anymore. Creamy. I kind of want to go back down to my oils and get mixer brushes, because the mixer brushes are going to give us a real nice, oh, here's Bristly Bob. If you haven't used Bristly Bob, oh yeah, nice. It just blends that in. So nice, so painterly. Maybe a little too fat for me at the moment. Of a brush, I mean. Just keep eyedroppering off your painting, so that you end up with colors that are all tied together. Yeah, I think this one is a little too fat of a brush. I can also make this a little bigger, because now this is actually this is actually 100%, so this is actually real size now. So I might as well work at real size and know what I'm really doing here, right? Now, see, I'm messing up. I don't think I'm really messing it up, though. I'm messing up my edge here, but that's okay, because we can come back in and make it dark again. I got a pretty low mix. I'm gonna, let's see, turn, no, I want a low mix, I think. Wet, custom, good. Let's try heavy load. Let's turn back on our little reference image here, so we can see what was happening. Oops, whoops-a-daisy. Yeah, just little highlights. They wrap around. We could do that. You want to try that? Let's see. We could follow up one of these shadow lines. Back to brush. I'm entering with this cake brush. Whoa, and just lightly. Line that in. And then I made a hot mess of our edge over here, but really that doesn't matter because I could erase it, honestly. Or I can just paint it back away. And you know, in a real oil scenario, you would just be painting it back away. Blending it in. Painting it back. Painting it back. They're a little too even. I'm not really feeling that, so I want to kind of break this up a little bit. I don't really want to make this like a t-shirt material. That would be kind of weird. But I do want it to have some depth. And it's hard to find the right scale and the right tone. I think we're getting there. So I think I like this. Let's see if we can make the rest of this be something I'm happy with. Are you happy with it? What do you guys think? So I like that these have little shadows in between them because that's how real fabric would be. So I'm going to blend this out. Into a highlight. And I haven't really done anything like super highlighty You know, we haven't done anything close to white yet, which is great, because that allows us to preserve that for when we actually want true highlights. But I think this side of it looks all right. Let's move our reference image. If you're just joining us, I have this image I took of myself laying on the ground. I kind of want to be able to see this area. Now, of course, this is kind of a totally different thing, but it still folds in fabric. So I think we want some folds in here. So let's see if we can mimic that. So we're gonna go back to B for brush tool. And you know, last night we tried painting everything on separate layers, and that was fine. That worked for what it was. Tonight I'm painting more like it would be for an actual oil painting. I'm painting everything kind of on one layer. I need this. I think I'm going to blend this down into one layer. Scary, but there we go. Okay, so now I can eyedropper this a little better. Because before I was eyedroppering in it, and it was saying, "There's nothing there. You're eyedroppering nothing." But it's because I was on. Had its own layer to be on. Now these mixer brushes don't actually eyedropper in the usual sense. So as I am eyedroppering, you'll notice that my color palette over here is not changing. What's changing is the paint that's on my brush, and you'll notice that it's not uniform. It's because I'm actually picking up whatever paint happens to be here, and just like it was on a palette. Palette board, and it's just kind of a blend of different stuff, and that's what I'm getting on my brush now, is a blend of different stuff. I'm so glad we did this, because I was not going to do this, and I have to say this looks so much better already. And there's no real need to like undo stuff or worry about toggling back and forth, because you just kind of keep painting over it the way you would if it was an oil painting. And it's going to build up those textures of brush strokes and layers. You know, you watch these paintings that are like speed paintings or whatever, or sped up, and they're done in like 5 seconds, and that's not really how oil painting happens. And part of the, I was saying this the other day if you were watching, but part of the process of oil painting is letting the paint dry, right? But nobody wants to make a screencast of watching paint dry. So I think there's some conflicting things going on here, because this position in my reference photo, and this of what's happening on the ground here, and this is really just totally different. So there's going to be some aspects of this that are just not going to line up, and I just have to be okay with that because they're just different. And I think I want that. I want this bent up, crusty, horrible looking, you know, shoulder injury. So I think it's okay. What do you guys think? No one's say anything in the chat. Say hello. Tell me who you are. What are you working on? What are you doing these days? How did you find out about this? You just randomly show up tonight, or did you see it on my Instagram feed? How did you get here? How did you find yourself sitting here with me this evening? That's what I want to know. Inquiring minds would like to know. Let's zoom out. Let's not get too myopic. Let's turn off this annoying image. See, that's too bright. See, we did all that work and then it's too bright. So let's tone it down a little bit. And I don't mind doing this. Zoomed in a little because, or zoomed out a little. I like to work in at the scale of the piece and not but in this case we need to have the big picture of what's going on. Well, that was an experiment and it didn't work, so let's try it again. That's not cutting it for me. I kind of wanted just a big painterly stroke there. I guess part of it is getting the right color. That was weird. All right, that looks pretty painterly. It's like chiseled and painterly. So let's move around to the other part of the torso. So we've got to get all of this part done. I really want to be done in this part before we finish tonight. I'll be kind of depressed if we don't get at least that done. I was hoping to have more than that done, honestly. Hoping to have like almost all of him done. So if we look back at this reference that we made, so the shadows came up from here and then they're going to go down across. We've got the highlight in right on this high spot, and now it's going to progressively get darker as it wraps around, and this wraps around pretty quickly because this shoulder is so high, and then this torso is down in a dark shadow. So let's go ahead and make that business. And we can use this as a reference, but I think we kind of get the idea. Let's go back to brush and be on a layer that we're painting on. Again, this is all one layer, so there's no fancy tricks with like multiply or highlight or dodge or anything strange. We're just make the brush a little bigger. Say option or close bracket rather. Remember not to do all your brush strokes in one direction so that you don't have like a fake digitally quality. Remember, if you were doing real inking, real painting, you know, you would put some on your brush and load it, and you'd have to go back to your palette and get some more, and it might not be quite the same mix, might not be quite the same color. I wasn't sure about this character, his anatomy, really. I mean, the pencil drawing was so rough in this regard, and that was why I actually I was worried enough that I decided I wanted to shoot some photo reference, and my photo reference I tried to shoot in a similar kind of time of day, so I could emulate what the look was going to be. But I have to admit, I was still kind of nervous about how I was going to pull that off. And because the photo reference, honestly, isn't that great either in terms of the lighting, and it's not an exact there's not an exact science to it, and the lighting is not exactly the same for what I was trying to shoot for. So even though it's my photo reference, it's not, you know, perfectly matching. I need to turn off this little menu that keeps popping up. Thankfully, it's not annoying you because I have my lower third and it's blocking my Apple menu that keeps popping up, but it's annoying me. I'm painting not at full size, so let me zoom up to be at 100%. That'll give us a better idea of how the texture is applying and stuff. I really like this. Like I said, I'm pleasantly surprised because I wasn't sure where we were going. Now, when I eyedropper this, it's going to eyedropper based on the size of my brush. And remember, it's this weird custom mixer palette. It's not my normal palette down here. So with this color up here, it's got all kinds of stuff in it. So if I make my brush smaller, I can more accurately select just the dark stuff that I'm trying to paint in here. And then I can make my brush back bigger again, but I'll get these darker colors to paint with now. Make it smaller. Zoom out a little. I like going from in and out. I really like this kind of like barrel chest look that we have. I think it needs to be darker. I think there's going to be a cast shadow. Hey Keegan, you're new to this live. Awesome. Thanks for joining me. I'm new to it too. This is all new to me, right? I'm streaming, trying to figure out oil painting. There's so many weird things with the differences between Fresco and Photoshop. It's not the same engine to emulate oils. And so thanks for joining me. Hopefully we can figure it out together. Are you working on any oil paintings? Or are you new to painting in Photoshop also? Hello. Hello, Katrina. Thanks for coming. Good to see you. So this is one of these illustrations that I've been working on for like forever. What is that little icon? Is that a little otter icon? Awesome. No, I guess you just got off work maybe. Thanks for joining me. This is it's fun to mostly I'm talking to myself, so it's nice to have some people here. So we were using this reference image and we were trying to lay in some similar lighting on our character here. Oh well, thanks for coming over. Hopefully everybody doesn't feel like I'm spamming them with Instagram posts from Inktober. Have you anybody done any Inktober drawings this month? I'm going to create a new layer and layer in some additional shading. I've been holding off on doing too much shading other than just basic form shading because there's a lot of shading that's going to happen with cast shadows. But I really think we can push this and get a lot darker. So I'm actually going to go onto a multiply layer, which is going to make it super dark, super fast. And because of that, I'm going to switch what kind of brushes I'm using and get out of these mixer brushes. So we're going to come up to just a normal oil brush. Let's see here what we got. Got too many monitors going on at the same time. There we go. Yeah, so every Wednesday and Thursday I'm going to be here putzing around trying to explore these brushes. There's over 2,000 brushes in Photoshop that Kyle Webster's made for trying to emulate oils, but there's not an actual digital media emulation engine in Photoshop. So that means every kind of different stroke, different kind of texture, you've got to use a different brush and apply it in a different way, and there's a whole different set of settings to use every single time. So a lot of that just comes down to pencil mileage and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. So that's what we're doing. We've been trying to use different brushes every night, experiment with different ones every night. So I haven't used any of these. Let's try this oil silk. I've not used that. So it could be a disaster, but actually oil super soft sounds good for shadows, but we'll try this silk first since I already committed. So this gets me out of this texture swatches and now it gets me into the normal swatches. And because I'm in multiply mode, I'm just gonna paint with a very light color. So right now I'm painting with black, I don't want to do that. So hit X, it'll toggle me over to a light color, and we can make our brush a little bigger and paint in some shadows. So let's see what this looks like. Let's keep in mind where the sun's coming from up here. And I think I'm just going to make all of this substantially darker. And I can even change this to multiply mode also. That'll make it get real dark real fast. It's also making it kind of golden. I don't really want. I don't want a warm shadow. I want warm highlights, but I want cool shadows. So I don't know if I like this, but we'll keep going and see where we get. Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Let's get up here and get a blender. Feel free to say hello and introduce yourself. Not really feeling that, I have to say. It's too brown. I don't think changing our blend mode is going to help, but we can cycle through those. If you hit V and then Command Option plus, you can just kind of. So that one's a little less brown, but it's kind of intense. Let's turn this off so we can get a feel for what the rest of the painting looks like with the color palette. See, that color palette is too like saturated and intense for the rest of our color palette. So let's keep going. Command Option plus. I mean, that could almost work, but what do you guys think? I'm just not feeling it. I think we could try to fake the funk here and change the saturation of this a little bit. So this is Command U. The hue doesn't. It does matter. I was gonna say it doesn't matter, but it does. I want it to be kind of a cool shadow, so we'll push it towards blue a little bit. It's like too black though. I don't like it when it's. I don't like black shadows. You know, purple, blue, those kind of shadows work. Almost looks green. I don't want it to be a green shadow, but I don't want it to be like a red shadow either. So usually shadows are so easy, kind of unusual. I don't have to fool with it for very much. So say okay to that maybe. Let's come in and blend this out a little. I don't know, I might have to sit on that. I'm not sure if I like that. We could also just tone it down a little. I mean, I guess that works. Zoom out a little. I guess that's not bad. What do you guys think? You tell me. By popular vote. I mean, obviously we got to add some. We got to add some cast shadow in here, right? This is can't be this bright. So let's drop this back in with this, and this can all get grouped together. We don't need this. Oh yeah, we do need that. We don't need this. So I hate having unnamed stuff. So this is our box frame, or let's call it wireframe. That was what we were guiding our highlights and shadows off of. And this is our reference photo of me lying on the ground. And we had an original shirt that we were experimenting with. And then we had the one that we ended up using. So all this is being recorded. And also, let's see. Nope. Well, somewhere I have another painting that we're working on together. Anyway, the point is, the crystals painting that we were doing is available in YouTube now. So you can watch the quick oil study we did to paint crystals, and that's about half done. We did about 30 minutes, and looks like a third done, I guess. And we'll do more of that, and it'll be in the playlist with the rest of the crystal stuff. And this painting will be archived in a playlist just for this painting on YouTube. So you can go over to YouTube, follow that, or subscribe to that, or whatever if you want, and then you'll see when I add installments to the crystal painting and to this painting. So the crystal one is designed to be a quick study of oils, fast. That was the idea, and it took a lot longer than I thought. So that'll be an experiment we can work through together to try to paint quickly. I'd like to be able to do little short studies of like birds or still lifes in like 30 minutes, just bang something out. So whereas this this is the size of a poster. This is like 18 by 24. So there's a lot more resolution, a lot more detail. There's a lot more going on. There's 2 portraits with 2 different people. So this one is obviously going to take much longer. So anyhow, 2 different styles of working. And so I thought that'd be fun to explore those. So if you're interested in that, interested in following along with me, then you can find those archived in YouTube. Command G, we're going to group these together. We'll name this as shirt tweak. And I'm actually going to move it above the tunic. Nope, I guess I'm not. Problem is, I had this shirt shading. Oops, there's not 2 D's. That needs to go above the tunic in order to shade it. So I do want to add a little more highlight. We can use this wet blender and pull some of this highlight out of here. Maybe too much, but I really like the idea of there being like a little stomach bulge kind of here. I mean, you're all squished over on your side, right? So there's going to be some mass, some flop over here. I'll make sure we kind of see that distributed mass. So I don't know, what do you think? Seems pretty alright. Let me add a little more highlight. I'll need to go back down to my paintbrushes. Really, any of these paintbrushes would probably be fine, but we'll stick with what we've been using. Where are those oil brushes? We have the real oils down below. Here we go. Oil 2. Let's add just a little bit more highlight. And it's going to need to go not on this layer because this layer is on multiply, so we're going to have to paint it on to the shirt base layer. There. Oh yeah, see how that adds highlight? That's what I'm talking about right there. Let's make sure we get the right color. Yep, feeling that. In fact, this is a brush I want to tag with my initials so I can find it easier next time. DWE. So remember, if you don't rename them, then if you're watching a tutorial, somebody doing something, you can still reference the same names. But if you tag it with your initials, in your search box up here, you can search your initials and find the brushes you use the most frequently that you like the best. And I have to say, I am now an instant fan of this brush. So I'm going to keep that one handy. Let's use it to do our cast shadow. So there's going to be this strong cast shadow, and it's going to be from the whole body down. So we can kind of let's just make a new layer for it. Let's pick something dark, and it's going to be a long shadow, I think. I think I want it to be more brown than that. Too much texture. Too much texture. Too much good stuff. My grandfather used to say. There we go. Gotta get it on the right layer. And I keep coming back to this Thrasher brush. I don't even have this one done with my initials, because, I mean, how can you forget Thrasher, right? But this just helps get rid of some of these lines, but really still keeps it very painterly. And then I can come in. I like to switch over to this acrylic thing. It has nothing to do with oils, but it allows me to just line in some hard lines just very easily to touch up before I come in with the Thrasher. And having some hard shadow is going to be a good thing, because alright, let's zoom out a little. Yep. Let's go up here. I'm feeling it. You know, part of the issue is that this is set to 80% because we didn't like it at full blast, and because of that, it means that when I apply these new shadows on that layer, that they're not going to be full blast. So it's allowing us to put them in, not like fully committed to the death and carnage that would be otherwise. I don't want Cain to be fat at all, but I do want there to be three-dimensionality and depth. I think that's good. Now, we didn't really address, I love how there's this little hint of like hip bone here, and socket, and then this, yeah, I think this is good. Not even entirely on purpose, we're just going off of looking at a reference photo, and I just kind of was happy accident. When I originally drew this as a pencil drawing, it almost had a very feminine quality. It almost looked, you know, I was trying to draw his chest, but it almost looked like he had breasts. And so, oops. So I'm very happy that it doesn't look like that. Let's see. Shirt base. Oops. Yeah, that's why I'm working too far out. Let's get in a little closer and see what's going on here. See, there's like a weird texture there. I want to get rid of that. That's not cutting it for me though. Where is that shadow at? Oh, that shadow is deep. Let's see. There it is. I might just erase that. And it's going to be on this layer with the brush, with the thrasher. Boom. There we go. Except that's not what I want it to look like. Let's try the wet blender. There, that's what we want. Better. Now I can come in with the thrasher. Nice. Okay. I don't want to obsess over this too much. Well, I guess I already passed the point of... I already passed that point. Okay, so back into the original pencil drawing. This is definitely improved. You know, he's got a muscular form, a flat form, without being feminine. Now, he had this decorative neck piece on. 1/4-9. I don't know if I want to get into a decorative neck piece. I'm not sure if it even needs a decorative neck piece. I mean, what do you guys think? I kind of put it on there just to kind of give it some visual interest, but I think it looks all right without it. I think I'm going to move forward without it, and then I can always add it later, or we could do it on a separate layer. I think there's going to be some cast shadow. His neck is down, his head is down, so I don't know, there might not be any shadow here. So I'm not going to change this highlight that I have across here. This is kind of like across the chest, clavicle kind of protrudes a little. So, and then it was going to taper down as it goes up into his neck. So I think we're good. I would like to, we got 15 minutes. Let's block in his arm. I mean, that's a really basic shape, hopefully. Well, it isn't because there's all that muscle and stuff, but let's see. Let's see what we can do. So this is torso shading. I'll just keep things labeled so I can find it later. I know what I'm looking at. And let's take a look at this arm. So we had this wireframe image, and in this wireframe I just kind of put an elbow. If we come in here and paint something, this is also kind of a rectangle form connecting to another rectangle form. So that's where we're gonna have our shading. And there's some subtle nuances of like muscle structure, and that it's round, that it's actually round, and that there's like an indentation here, and as this connects, looks like the pit, like the armpit of your elbow, so to speak, if that is a term. So that's what we want to do in terms of the shading. And I haven't really picked a flesh tone for Abel, but I think he's going to be kind of dark skinned. So let's see if we can find a good flesh tone for that. Spreading it up a little. Yep. That's probably what I want right in there. I put my box on. I guess we can delete this box. We don't really need this. Command A, Command X, select all, and cut. And I don't really need this wireframe on either. And my photo reference, I don't really need that on. My arm is like in a totally different position anyway. So let's get an oil brush. Bristly Bob. My kids think that's a funny name. Bristly Bob. Okay, we're gonna name this arm. Wow. Intense. 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 I don't really like this color. Let's go darker. See, better already. Oops. Get a color inside the lines, right? Let's go more muted. I like that that we have that warm underpainting. I like that. It's going to be hard to overcome. No, but I do like it. More darkness. See how in comparison to the warmness, I didn't change the hue at all, but as I got more and more left on the color wheel, more and more black, it looks cool. Looks like I changed to a cool color. Now let's go up. Not feeling that as a color. There, I think that was good. I think that's good. All right, then we got to get, you know, I feel like I should be doing, well, I can always eyedropper these colors later, but I feel like I should be doing all the flesh tone at once. Risky business, I guess. I don't know, let's see. I need a highlight color. It's too... There, that's a little better. Let's lock this down to this, just so we can see what we got. Command Option, or yeah, Command Option G. There we go. Yeah. It's actually a lot thicker than I thought it would be. His arm. He's muscular. He's a muscular guy. Let me change brushes. Now see, this is where my reference brush would kind of come in handy, because I don't really know which colors here I want. I feel like he'd have a lot of light coming in from the one side, and that would be making it very light there. Like right here, I think. Almost out of time, so I'm gonna probably have to explore probably gonna have to explore this more later. I think I want a little bit of just straight up like highlight. Really small. That's pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect. We can work on it more another day when we're here some more. That actually was not what I meant to do, but it looked good. Let me make a new layer to do that on. Option Shift G and then V, Option Shift plus. I think soft light. Let's see. So let's go to soft light. I think I like that. I think the only issue is that the anatomy is a little bit wrong. The lighting's pretty good. The anatomy is wrong. So it's 9 o'clock. Let's fix this anatomy next time. I will turn on the wireframe, make ourselves a note to, well, if I could paint. Let's get a normal paintbrush. Actually, I should put that on its own layer. Okay. There we go. We're not going to forget. And we'll come back. We'll pick that up. You know, maybe I'll work on it tomorrow. I don't think so. I got other things going on. Maybe I'll work on it Tuesday. Nope, definitely won't. So I'll see you back on Wednesday night, and if I have time to do any streams on the crystals between now and Friday, then let me change my scene here in my broadcaster. This is why people have a producer. do stuff like this for him. There we go. So if I have time to do any more on the crystal series, I will do that for you and I'll get it posted. I don't have scheduled times for that, so just watch out, and maybe I'll be live for 30 minutes and I'll post it on YouTube. So anyway, have a good night. Thanks for hanging out with me.